Hi everyone, welcome to my next video. This is about the third life processes which we are going to talk about today, and it is transportation. This is also an important life processes which we are going to talk about. So to start with, just we'll have the idea what is transportation or what does transportation mean. Transportation is a life process where substance synthesized or absorbed in one part of the body is carried or are carried to the other parts of the body. Transportation, what does transportation mean? The simple meaning is it is a life process where substances that are synthesized or that are produced or that are absorbed. They are either synthesized, they are produced or are absorbed at one part of the body, and they are made to be made available in all the parts of the body, and for that we have to depend on transportation. So synthesized, absorbed or produced in one part of the body are to be carried to the other parts of the body. That is the main thing about transportation, or what we mean by transportation. Following, why is transportation important? Means, why is transportation so important that without this transportation we cannot think of a living being? So what happens, it is so important because plants and animals, it is that only way in the living beings, in all plants, in all animals, also in human beings, the nutrients, water, minerals, and even the prepared food, the absorbed food, the gases, etc., everything is taken from one part of the body, or where it is synthesized, to all different parts of the body through this process of transportation. Gases, etc., reach every part of the body, which is essential for its survival, for its growth, and for other various activities or other developmental activities. It is also essential way, is the only way through which we can give out an excess or the excreta or the unwanted waste also. So why is transportation important? If we have to tell about, we have to tell that whatever substances or whatever chemicals they are produced, synthesized or absorbed in one part of the body is made available to all the parts of the body through the process of transportation. It is also through this process of transportation that the waste is also given out of the body, which is also an important thing, because waste in the body means it has to be given out, and this is also done by transportation. So we have got an idea what is transportation and what is the importance of transportation. Now we'll be talking about two types of transportation, that is the transportation in plants, and then we'll talk about transportation in human beings. First we'll start with transportation in plants. Transportation in plants. When we talk of transportation in plants, we tell of a special group of cells forming the vascular tissue, which transports water and minerals to different parts of the plant. Now when we talk of transportation in plants, we talk of xylem, which is a specialized cell which helps or which works in the transportation of the water and minerals from the roots to different parts of the plant. So, and it is composed of tracheids, xylem vessels, xylem parenchyma and xylem fibers. And the movement of the water and the minerals from the root to the leaves is known as the ascent of sap. This upward movement, the ascent of sap or the ascent of water and minerals, what takes place, it is negative to that of the gravitational pull. So it is called the upward movement. It is not the downward movement, because from the roots to the leaves it moves the upward. It is the upward movement of water and minerals from the roots to different parts of the plant is called the ascent of sap. Whereas after the preparation of food, the prepared food or the products of photosynthesis are brought from the leaves to the different parts of the body by the special cells called the phloem. The phloem is another type of vascular tissue. It is composed of sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem parenchyma and bust fibers, and their function is to bring the prepared food from the leaves to the different parts of the body. So we have discussed about transportation. In the transportation, we have discussed in transportation of plants, we have discussed about xylem and phloem. Xylem brings in the water and minerals from the roots to the different parts or to the leaves of the plant. Now first we'll learn to know about the transportation of water. First we told that xylem transports water and minerals from the roots to the leaves of the plants. Now how does xylem do that? See, the transportation of water from the roots to the leaves of the plants can be done in two ways, that is transpirational pull and root pressure. What we already know, or what we have already studied when we had studied about photosynthesis, and that transpiration is giving out the excess of water from the plant, and giving out the excess of water, and root pressure is the pressure that it develops. It gets developed due to the accumulation of ions inside the root. We'll talk about each of them in detail. So first with the transpirational pull. Transpirational pull, as we all know that when the transpiration occurs, when there is transpiration occurs, the stomata that is again present, we have already studied in nutrition, the stomata that is present on the leaves, they open up and excess of water from the plants are given out. They are given out. So here I have drawn a diagram, that is the excess of water from the cell or from the plant is given out. Now the cell which is just next to the stomata, that gives out the water, that gives out the excess of water. So what happens? This cell gets a deficit of water. This cell has a deficit of water. So what happens? From the next cell, the water comes to this cell. Because this cell has a deficit of water and this cell has an excess of water. So there is a difference between the water potential. So water from higher potential, that is the second cell, comes to the first cell. Now again what happens? This cell gets water is less in amount. So from the third cell, the water comes to the second cell. So from the third cell, the water comes to the second cell. That is, it comes because of the difference in the water potential. From the fourth, it comes to third. From the fifth, it comes to fourth. From the sixth, it comes to fifth. And it keeps on doing. So what happens? It keeps on moving. Ultimately, water from this cell comes to this cell. Because already water from here has gone till here. So this way it goes. So here, the water from here moves to the previous cell. Now this cell, there is a water deficit. Now this cell, there is no other cell of the stem to provide it with any water. So what happens? There is a fall in the water potential. As there is a fall in the water potential, the cells from the roots, they start migrating. The cell from the root, it gives the water to the previous cell. It gives water to the previous cell. Now what happens? The cells of the roots, they have deficit of water. They have a lower water potential. As they have lower water potential, and as you can understand, this is totally soil, and soil has excess of minerals and water. Excess of mineral and water. So the excess of water or the water from the soil moves into this cell. Because there is less water potential and here the water potential is high. So it moves into this cell. As it moves into this cell, so water from outside or from the soil moves into the plant. So this way, and this water is slowly taken up towards the plant. So this is called the transpirational pull. So then this way also the water is taken up by the plant through the way of transpiration. Due to the loss of water by transpiration and due to the pull or the deficit of water that is created, water from the roots is taken up and it slowly moves to the leaves of the plant. But as you can understand, or as we can see, that this only happens when the water is given out, and water is given out mostly during the process of photosynthesis. As we all remember, according to the equation, water, carbon dioxide, water, oxygen and energy or sugar is, or carbohydrate is produced. So this water is given out. So water is given out only when photosynthesis occurs, and photosynthesis is a process which occurs only in the presence of sunlight. So the transpiration pull that happens only during the day. It doesn't happen during the night. And this transpirational pull is a very good example for big plants, for trees, because there is always a chain of cells that gives us the water. So what happens when this transpirational pull is very active or very prominent during the day, when there is photosynthesis taking place and loss of water due to transpiration happens. But at night, the rate of transpiration is less because no photosynthesis is done. It is nearly towards zero. So the water taken up by the process of transpirational pull is also very less. So at night there is no or very rarely water coming up through transpiration. Then how does they get the water at night? At night what happens? There is another process called root pressure which takes place. For root pressure what happens? The roots consist of water and ions. The roots consist of water and ions, and even the soil that is surrounding the roots also consists of water and ions. Now what happens? The roots, in order to take up water, what they do? They spend some energy to take up ions. They spend some energy to take up ions, so to increase the concentration of ions inside the roots than that of the soil. So as the concentration of the ions inside the root increases, immediately the water, as the ions increase, as the ions concentration increases, the water concentration obviously it decreases than the water concentration in here. So what happens when the ions are taken up by the use of ATP, the water from the roots or from the soil is immediately starts moving into the roots. The water from the soil start moving into the roots through the process of root pressure. Again here there is a fall in the water potential. The water potential here is low and the water potential here or the water in the soil is higher. So water moves always from higher to lower potential. So it moves from the soil into the roots, and this root, and through this once it takes up to the root, and then it is transferred to the leaves or the other parts of the plant where the water is required. This is the process that through which the transportation of water takes place in plants. Now, after the transportation of water and minerals through the process of transpirational pull and root pressure, we come to translocation of food. That is how the food is being translocated. The prepared food that is prepared in the leaves, how it gets translocated to different parts of the body. We have previously told you that, I have previously also told you that translocation takes place through the phloem. The phloem is composed of sieve tube, companion cells, phloem parenchyma and bast fibers. So supposedly if such a thing, this is a phloem cell and this is a sieve tube with the companion cells. Now what happens? The food that is been prepared by the leaves, the food that is prepared, we prepared it, that is glucose is prepared. So what happens? This glucose, before transporting to different parts of the body, it is changed to sucrose. So the food or the prepared food that comes into the phloem, that is sucrose plus water that comes in, because when sucrose and water is there, you can understand this tube is having here excess of water. So obviously the water potential here or lower down to the tube is less. Lower down to the tube is less than the water potential here, because here we consists of sucrose along with water. Here there is water, is obviously the water content is less. So what happens? This sucrose is transferred, or the sucrose is translocated. The sucrose comes down, that is it flows through the phloem. And this another thing, that this translocation, during the translocation, if you can imagine, it is coming from the leaves to different parts of the plant. Mostly the leaves of the plants are the topmost part of the plant. Anytime in any plant, may it be a plant or a tree or a small sapling, the leaves are generally at the topmost part. So when it is going to different parts, obviously it is coming towards the gravity, it is flowing towards the gravity, it is flowing with the gravity. So what happens, with very less effort the flow takes place. With very less effort the flow takes place because it is flowing towards the gravity. It is flowing along with the gravitational pull. That is, everything pulls, the earth pulls towards itself. So this also the earth's pull. So it requires less amount of energy than that of transportation, that of transportation of water, because transportation of water is against the gravitational pull. So this pull, because the low water potential here is low than that of here, so obviously the sucrose and the water, the mixture, it flows down through the sieve tubes and it reaches to different parts of the body. So this is all about that we are going to discuss about the transportation in plants. Next we'll move on to the transportation of human beings. Transportation in humans. After talking about plants, let us move for transportation in humans. How is the transportation takes place in the human beings or human body? When we talk of transportation, the first thing that we should remember or we should think about is that fluid or the liquid which connects or which moves throughout the body, which connects one part of the body to another. That is none other than our blood. So what is blood? When we talk of blood, what is blood? Blood is a special transport fluid. It is a special transport fluid that is pumped by the heart to different parts of the body, and again which comes back to the heart. So what is blood? It is a special transport fluid that is pumped by the heart to different parts of the body, after which it again comes back to the heart. And blood is also known as a fluid connective tissue. It is also called a fluid connective tissue. Now, what we talk about, what are the main components of blood? When we talk about what are the main components, blood is mainly composed of 4 most important ingredients. The first being the plasma, that is, it constitutes 55% of the blood volume. Out of the total blood volume, more than half of it consists of plasma. What is plasma? It is the liquid portion, because blood, we know, it's a liquid form. It is a flowing, it is a special liquid. So it is the 55% of the blood is composed of that liquid portion, that is the plasma. And other than water, it consists of water, which is around 91 to 92% of water. Other than water, it constitutes of protein, which is around 7%, inorganic salts 0.9%, and glucose 0.1%. The next is erythrocytes. We know as erythrocytes or RBC or the red blood cells. As we all have studied that RBC or the red blood cells, the main function of the RBC is to carry the oxygenated blood. So transports oxygen to all the parts of the body from the lungs and again take back CO2 to the lungs. So it is the main function of RBCs is to carry oxygen, because this carries oxygen from the lungs to the different parts of the body and again brings back carbon dioxide or deoxygenated blood to that of the lungs. Next is leukocytes, white blood cells, or we call it as WBC. This is little less in quantity than that of erythrocytes or RBC. They help in fighting diseases. They attack the foreign bodies if they are present in the blood, and they are less in number compared to that of RBCs. And finally, we'll come to blood platelets. These are still less in number compared to even WBC, and they do a very major function, that is, it helps in controlling of bleeding or helps in blood clotting. Without which, if we did not have these blood platelets, it would have been very difficult to make a person alive. Once if you have got a cut or a tear on the skin of the body, then whole of the blood, the whole amount of blood present in the body would have been lost through bleeding. Because of the blood platelets, it helps in blood clotting, which does not allow to lose the blood, So these are the main components of blood. When we want to conclude about the blood, what are the functions of blood? Blood has immense number of functions, as we can see, because each component of the blood has different function. So that all will summarize up to the functions or the advantages or the functions of blood. So what are they? Blood is the fluid connective tissue. It provides oxygen and removes CO2 from the body. It helps in transportation of nutrients and hormones. It regulates body temperature. It brings waste products from kidney. It brings waste products to the kidneys and liver. So what is it? Blood is a fluid connective tissue. It provides the cell with oxygen and removes the carbon dioxide. It provides each cell with the nutrients and also the hormones. It regulates the body temperature and also brings back waste product. It also helps in blood clotting, and it also fights with other diseases or any other foreign bodies which are present, might be present in the blood. So we have already talked about, when we have started talking about transportation of humans, we have talked about what is blood or what is the main source of transportation in human beings and what are the components of blood. Now we have already also told that blood is a fluid connective tissue. So it needs to flow through something. Just like water, it needs to flow through some pipes. So even blood also flows through some kind of pipes. But in human bodies, we don't call it pipes, we call it blood vessels. We call it blood vessels. Now, what types of vessels are there for the flow of blood? Now, there are three types of vessels in which bloods flow. One is artery. Arteries, we call it, and they are the blood vessels which carry blood away from the heart. Means it carries oxygenated blood from the heart. It takes the blood, means it carries the oxygenated blood. The veins, it carries blood towards the heart. Towards the heart means it is taking from the body or different parts of the body towards the heart. So it is basically carrying deoxygenated blood. And third is capillaries. They are very tiny blood vessels. They connect arteries and veins. Now let us understand about the total circulation of blood throughout the body from the heart. Let us have an idea, because this is very important from translocation point of view. This is just a schematic diagram that I have drawn. I have not drawn the actual heart because it will be difficult for you to understand. So this is a schematic representation of the heart and how does the flow of the blood takes place. I will make you understand. So human heart is divided into four parts. It is left atrium, left ventricle, right atrium, right ventricle. So if this is the lungs we know this is the place where our blood or the body gets oxygen. It removes carbon dioxide, takes in oxygen. Now, once the oxygen is being taken or diffusion of gases takes place in the alveoli, which I have already discussed in respiration, in the alveoli, then this oxygen that has been taken by the alveoli is transported or it is sent through the blood vessels into the left atrium, And who carries this from the lungs to the left atrium of the heart? Carries this, it is called the pulmonary vein. This vein which carries the oxygenated blood from the lungs to the left atrium is called the pulmonary vein. Now, we have already told, when I was discussing about blood vessels, we told veins are something that carries deoxygenated blood. That is, it carries blood towards the heart from various organs. That is, it carries towards the heart. Now, pulmonary vein, it is called vein, but it carries oxygenated blood. What we have learned is veins always carry deoxygenated blood. Now, this is an exception. Why did this exception occur? In the definition, we have told two things about veins. In the veins, we have told it is carries towards the heart and it carries deoxygenated blood. One thing is that it is carrying blood towards the heart, from the lungs towards the heart. Because it is carrying towards the heart, it is called a vein. Though it is carrying oxygenated blood, it is named as pulmonary vein. Now, when the oxygenated blood enters the left atrium, it passes into the left ventricle through this bicuspid valve. This is a bicuspid valve. It comes to the left ventricle. From the left ventricle, through the aorta, which is the biggest artery in our body, that is, it carries the oxygenated blood. The aorta carries the oxygenated blood from the heart to different parts of the body. The aorta carries the oxygenated blood to different parts of the body. It is the maximum, it is the biggest artery in our human body. Now, in different parts of the body, what happens? The exchange of gases means oxygen is given and carbon dioxide is taken up from the different parts of the body or different organs of the body. Now, this deoxygenated blood from the body is being brought. This is brought from the body and it comes and it is given to right atrium. It enters the heart through right atrium. Oxygenated blood enters through left atrium, and deoxygenated blood enters through right atrium. If you understand, it enters through right atrium, then from right atrium it moves to right ventricle. It moves through right ventricle. Now again, when we are talking that pulmonary means from the body or from the deoxygenated blood from the body is carried to the heart by a vein known as vena cava. Now it is called a vena cava. It carries from here to the right atrium, through the right to the right atrium. Now it is vena cava. It reaches the right atrium, from the right atrium through the tricuspid valve. Here we have talked about bicuspid valve, here it is tricuspid valve. It moves from right atrium to right ventricle. From the right ventricle, it leaves out from here. It leaves out from the right ventricle, and this deoxygenated blood, it goes and again goes to the lungs. When it reaches the lungs, here again the gaseous exchange takes place and the carbon dioxide is given out, and the oxygenated blood is again taken by the pulmonary vein as this process continues. This vena cava, what I told you, brings the blood or deoxygenated blood from the body to the heart. There are two vena cava. One is superior vena cava and one is inferior vena cava. Superior vena cava is the vena cava that brings the deoxygenated blood from the upper portions of the body, and inferior vena cava is the blood or the vein that brings the blood from the lower portions of the body. So even the vena cava, it brings the deoxygenated blood, and there are two types of vena cava, that is superior vena cava bringing blood from the upper part of the body and inferior vena cava bringing blood from the lower part of the body. If you understand this one, then the circulation or transportation of blood, the circulation of blood is clear, means the transportation, your 50% or 60% of it is done, because this is a very important part of transportation in humans. Now we have understood about how the blood flows or the blood circulation happening in our body. After that, we'll move into a very small portion of transportation is there, that is about the lymph. Now when we talk about lymph, we tell that it is nothing but it can be thought of a drainage system. Basically, when blood flows, when blood is flowing through the capillaries, sometimes the blood plasma leaks out of these blood capillaries. Although most of the blood or most of the blood plasma again gets moved back into the bloodstream, but some of the blood plasma remains into this intercellular spaces, which does not get back into the blood capillaries along with the particular matter. So what happens, this blood plasma which remains in the intercellular spaces along with this matter, they are all collected and they are again brought back to the blood capillaries or through the blood vessels or to the bloodstream through these lymphatic vessels, So what we can tell, that it is a sort of drainage system. As blood circulates through the body, blood plasma leaks into tissues through thin walls of the capillaries. Now lymphatic system, what it does, it removes this fluid, returning them to the bloodstream via lymphatic vessels. So blood plasma that leaks into the blood capillaries or blood tissues, in the intercellular spaces of the tissues, they are removed. Then lymphatic water does, the lymph removes this fluid and it brings back the bloodstream via the lymphatic vessels. Mostly the lymph is composed of plasma, protein and blood cells, and they are very less in quantity compared to that what is present in blood. And the main part also, it carries some digested and absorbed fat. The lymph also carries some digested and absorbed fat. It also helps in the defense mechanism of the body by supplying sometimes some disease fighting cells, called the lymphocytes. It also helps in the disease fighting of the body through supplying of lymphocytes. So supplying of the cell is called lymphocytes. And only a few portion of the human body are free of lymphatic regions, does not have the lymphatic capillaries. That is the epidermis of the skin. The epidermis of the skin is free of lymphatic capillaries, the mucous membrane, the bone marrow and the central nervous system or the CNS. So we have understood what is lymph, how it is, what does it transport. It transports the blood plasma that leaks into the tissues, and it transports through the lymphatic vessels, and it also helps the body in sometimes fighting with the infection or disease fighting germs by the production of lymphocytes. And there are few regions in our body which is devoid of lymphatic capillaries. They are the skin, epidermis, bone marrow, the central nervous system and the mucous membrane. So this brings to the end of the transportation part of the chapter life processes, and I have discussed mostly everything regarding transportation, which involves the transportation in plants and also the transportation in humans. In humans, how the transportation takes place, in plants, how does it take place, and everything. So if you like my video, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. And also if you have any questions or want to discuss anything, you can put in the comment section, which I'll obviously come back to it and will discuss and clear it out. Thank you.